Hello, my beautiful rosebuds. It's your favorite rosebud, the one and only Niecy K. And I am here to go over gossip with you today. And yeah, stay tuned. Hello, my beautiful rosebuds. It's your favorite rosebud, of course, Niecy K. And as you guys can see, what we're discussing right now is the Surviving R. Kelly documentary. Now, I was going to try to combine all 1 through 6, I believe, together. If you hear noise in the background, I apologize. But if 1 through 6 all together, but it's going to be too long if I do that. So we are going to split this up into 3 separate videos. And right now we are going to discuss part 1 and 2. So when we get introduced into the documentary, they pretty much have multiple victims come out from the rip, like multiple victims that's coming out all together. And there were stories that used to go around about R. Kelly as far as him being a 28-year-old, because I believe there was a principal who came out and said he used to see R. Kelly waiting outside for the girls to get out of high school and stuff like that. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with her, but there is a YouTuber by the name of Ashley Miller who is from Chicago and was still in Chicago, and she had even came out and stated that allegedly she had personally seen him around the high school in the McDonald's and along, I believe she had said she had even seen him outside of the library where she works. And so it's pretty much common knowledge throughout Chicago that this is what R. Kelly does. And so, yeah. Crazy, right? Yeah, crazy. So he's known for these little antics, and nothing has happened to him as of yet. I don't understand why. But of course, you get introduced to Geronda, you get introduced to Gisette Martinez and Lisa Van Allen, who are just a few of the victims that actually came out. And but how it starts off is pretty much, we start off by talking about R. Kelly's life as a child. And in the process of talking about R. Kelly's life as a child, it does come up about him being sexually abused at a young age. And allegedly, from the rumor mill, he was raped by not just a girl, but a guy. And his brother Kerry Kelly, in a separate interview with Tasha K, I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of her, and with all this YouTube drama that's going on as far as her not being credible, but I saw the interview and this came out of his own mouth, so whether it's a lie or not, I can't tell you. But he allegedly said in the interview with Tasha K that both him and R. Kelly were sexually abused by their older sister Teresa Kelly. Now, she might not go by Kelly as the last name because of course I believe she's married, but he pretty much acknowledges that, oh yeah, we both were abused by our older sister. Now, what you also learn within the beginning is how R. Kelly is illiterate and he cannot read and write, which is what he used to play on Andrea's emotions to get with her, who is his ex-wife and mother of 3, but we'll get further on through that. But so one of the things that I've actually noticed is that they try to use the fact that, R. Kelly was abused and he was raped and molested as a child and this and that and the other. And of course, I've heard the saying before that hurt people, which is true. But at the end of the day, you guys are like, a lot of people are trying to use this as a way to dismiss what he's done, or pretty much give what's the word I'm looking for? They're pretty much trying to, this is a way that they try to forgive him and let it go and be like, people need to just let go of what he did, based off of the fact that it happened to him when he was a young child. But if his younger brother Carrie knows that what happened was wrong and can see that what happened was wrong, and not portray and take that bad energy and put it out there to others, then I don't understand why R. Kelly couldn't. But of course, they always sit here and say, oh, well, everybody's different. Everybody doesn't handle things the exact same way, which is true. So I can't sit here and knock that. So I'm not going to. But while I sympathize with the fact of him being molested and raped at a young age, that doesn't give excuse to what he did. What he did was wrong. What he did, he was foul for. And while a lot of people try to say, oh, well, these girls knew what was going on or whatever, while that is true, at the end of the day, there is still a law in place that specifically states. Now, I know there's some states that the age of consent is 16. I know some states where the age of consent is 17, and then others the age of consent is 18. But like I've sat here and said, there is a law in place that says, hey, these are the age, depending on what state you're in, these are the ages of consent. Even though to me, I'm like, if they're in high school, you being a damn near 30-year-old man, like, why are you sitting here trying to pursue these girls and putting them in these situations, whatever. But at the end of the day, you should be the adult in the situation and say, no, this is wrong, this is illegal, I could go to jail, I'm not doing it. But that's not what R. Kelly did. R. Kelly just did what he did, and now when people are coming at him, he's like, I don't understand why, like, that's ridiculous. And then he, tried to lie and say it never happened. But come on, let's be real. Let's be real. And what I also not noticed, but then what also ends up coming out, they end up discussing how Aaliyah, yeah, it's a lot, but then they end up bringing up Aaliyah in the particular situation. And there is a story where one of the backup dancers pretty much discussed how Aaliyah, they were on the bus, and while they were driving, I'm not sure what happened, but something happened to where the bus door opened and pretty much exposed that Aaliyah and R. Kelly were hooking up on the bus. Now, when that came out, Aaliyah's mom pretty much came out before the release of the documentary saying that backup dancer was a lie. And I'm going to put it on the screen. But I'm going to go ahead and also read it too, so we can go ahead and discuss this and unpack all of this. But the mom says, and I quote, "The woman and so-called backup singer I said backup dancer, I just realized it's a singer, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, the woman and so-called backup singer in the forthcoming Survivor documentary that describes seeing, meeting, or even breathing the same air as my daughter Aaliyah is lying and is a liar. My husband and I were always on tour with her and at interviews and every place she went throughout her entire career. Whoever this woman is, I have never seen her before anywhere on planet Earth until now. These lies and fabrications cannot be tolerated and allowed to be spewed from the forked tongues of saboteurs of Aaliyah's legacy. My daughter only wanted to realize her dream of sharing her talent with the world and give her all performing on stage and in from top the cameras for the fans." I'm sorry, that made no sense, but whatever. For the fans that she adored so much. She realized that dream thanks to those true fans who still love and support her legacy unconditionally to this day. Shame on all those involved in the project who thought it kosher to drag Aaliyah's name into a situation that has nothing to do with her today. Once again, this will not be tolerated. Sincerely, Diane Houghton. Now, I'm going to tell you why I'm sorry if I come off as being insensitive or whatever you guys are going to feel, but I'm going to go ahead and let you know why I feel like that whole statement was a load of shit. So you were everywhere with Aaliyah when she was with R. Kelly, but yet and still, how was she able to get married? Because what nobody can sit here and explain is there is a marriage license that is public record that came out and was floating around with Aaliyah and R. Kelly's information. The only thing is that it showed that Aaliyah was 18, when in reality she was only like 14, 15. So you mean to tell me you were everywhere with your daughter, and that everything that they are sitting here trying to say about your daughter is not true? It never happened. She didn't hook up with R. Kelly, but yet and still they were married. As well as an old manager came out and not only acknowledged the fact that R. Kelly and Aaliyah were hooking up, but that he was a part of the wedding, and not a part of the wedding, he witnessed the wedding, and that R. Kelly contacted him to tell him that they needed to do this, and how the reason that they were saying all of this is that the reason they needed to get married was supposedly that Aaliyah might be pregnant at the time. That's the whole reason, allegedly, that they got married. So you have a witness to this marriage, and the witness is telling you, oh yeah, the reason that they even went and got married allegedly is because Aaliyah was pregnant. So for Aaliyah to supposedly be pregnant, that would mean they would have to be having sexual relations. So how can you sit here and say that this backup singer, backup dancer account of what happened on that tour bus is a lie, when you can't even explain how your daughter and this man were married? As well as there's cringy interviews where they're being flirtatious, dressed alike, and she never once comes out and says, no, that's not my boyfriend, but she does say he's her best friend. He does say that she is his best friend. And what I also find hilarious in this particular situation is that Dame Dash himself has even come out in a separate interview, said Aaliyah told him personally that R. Kelly was a bad man. So while Aaliyah couldn't express or explain exactly what happened to her, she let it be known that R. Kelly was a bad man. Which is why when Jay-Z was working with R. Kelly and stuff like that, Dame Dash even comes out saying that Jay-Z knew that R. Kelly did all of these things, because remember, they're allegedly at some point Aaliyah dated Jay-Z. So I don't know how he didn't know all of this, but supposedly Dame Dash said that Jay-Z knew all of this, and that he even went to Jay-Z. But Jay-Z still collaborated with him, because while Jay-Z knew all this was going on, everybody, that's the thing. R. Kelly is known to be a musical genius. So that's all he really cared about. And Dame Dash has even said he can understand, like, even with the conversations about people who are saying they're still going to listen to his music and stuff like that, Dame Dash said he can understand, because he felt the same way when all those stories as far as Michael Jackson and those little children were coming out, and those little boys saying that he molested them had came out. All those stories that came out, but he still listened to Michael Jackson. So he said he can understand where people are coming from, but he just can't support this particular situation. Now, it could very well be due to the fact that Dame Dash was dating Aaliyah, and so he knows some things. But yeah, nope, he couldn't do it. And so he even acknowledges that with the tapes and everything that was going on, it kind of hindered and made a lot of things hard for the collaboration that Jay-Z was trying to do with R. Kelly, which it should. But we'll get further into that. I'll give my opinion at the very end. And again, like I said, this is gonna be like a 3-part video, so be on the lookout. But there is even a conversation and this whole thing where R. Kelly's older brother, Barry Kelly, comes out pretty much saying, I don't understand why people are so up in arms about this. It's a preference. Just like I like older women, he likes younger women. It's a preference. So I'm pretty sure he'll never see my videos with him being in jail. For whatever reason, if he said this, I'm pretty sure he did something completely and utterly ridiculous. So why he's in jail. But let me go ahead and explain something to you, sir. Let me go ahead and explain something to you, Barry Kelly. You're sitting here trying to say there's a preference. You being attracted to older women, okay, yes, that's your preference. But here's the thing is R. Kelly isn't dealing with younger women who are legally of age. Well, not all of them, I guess, are legally of age. He is dealing with girls who is 14, 15, and then supposedly there are girls that he's dealing with that are like 12 and 13. He's groomed and molded these girls. And last time I checked, it's against the law, and you would be considered a pedophile if you were sitting here sleeping and messing with a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old. So what your brother is doing would be considered breaking the law, which means that he lucked up and it didn't happen, but he could have been very well sitting in the same jail cell that you're sitting in. But you want to sit here and say preference. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? I hope you don't have children. I really, really, really hope you don't have children, because if you do, and let alone a daughter, you like, I am a firm believer in karma, and you are bringing that karma to your family for no reason. But I digress, and we gonna move on from this, okay? So back to everything that's going on. So Aaliyah fans did get angry at the fact that Aaliyah was dragged into this particular situation and brought up. Now, me personally, I didn't understand why they were so angry about Aaliyah being brought up in the situation, because at the end of the day, regardless of if anybody wants to sit here and acknowledge it or give her whatever they want to put in their head, Aaliyah is a part of this story. Aaliyah, while she can't sit here and tell her story or anything to that nature, is, I'm going to say allegedly, but Aaliyah is allegedly a victim too. Her, even though she's not here, people should know that she was a victim too, allegedly. And also, Aaliyah told you what she was doing in her songs. Like, let's be real. One of her like main hit songs that everybody remembers, age ain't nothing but a number. Now, if you, and I'm pretty sure, because I had to go back, because, you know, a lot of this stuff kind of went over my head because I was a freaking child when all of this was coming out. You know, I'm only 31 years old right now. I was a freaking child when all this stuff was coming out. So a lot of this stuff went over my head. But if you sit here and listen to age ain't nothing but a number, it's pretty much talking about how a girl who is young, like a younger girl pretty much, is trying to get with this older guy. And that she's pretty much trying to say, oh, because, you know, of course, the whole thing is, well, you're too young. Oh, don't worry about my age. I'm mature for my age or whatever. I can still get down this and that and the other, which is retarded. Like, you cannot sit here and say that nothing happened to her when we have these songs that we can go back to. We have sprinkles of her within the stories that are going on. Like, and then you have actual people who were coming out saying that things happened to her. And honestly, I am giving all of these, like the tour manager, the producer Craig, who came out stating that he would go into the studio and see different girls throughout the studio, just they're naked, and that they looked very young, which makes sense because, I mean, I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen this, but if you guys can, if you guys want to, you can go ahead and you can check it out. And I'll even post the link to the video in the bottom description. But I did a, pretty much a, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry. I pretty much discussed, the, book. One of, his, victims came out and wrote a book called Sex Me, Confessions of Daddy's Little Freak. And she even acknowledges that she was at one point in the studio naked, and how the producer walked in and was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were here, I thought it was empty. And how R. Kelly handed her something like a towel to wrap herself around, or a blanket to wrap herself around in. And at the time she was like 14 or 15, so she was underage. So you can't say that this stuff isn't happening, because even the victims, like, and that's the one thing that I sat there and I said, I was like, if you listen to all of the victim stories, like, they line up in a lot of ways as far as how R. Kelly was, as far as being abusive and beating on them, as far as using food, as a punishing mechanism by starving them if they didn't do or act the way that he wanted them to, by keeping them confined in a room to where they couldn't come out. And remember, they weren't allowed to talk to anybody else. They weren't allowed to look at anybody else. They had to dress a certain kind of way. Like, all of them came out saying the same thing, pretty much, and they all align. Now, I will sit here and say that I'm not saying that all of these girls that are coming out are telling the truth, because you have people who are just trying to jump on the wave so that they can be known and be famous and get some type of validation. But there's too many girls coming out and their stories are lining up too much for all of this to be a lie. And what also you end up finding out is there's a backup dancer who actually came out and said she was at the time 14 and she was a backup dancer for R. Kelly. And one day that she walked into the studio and she saw R. Kelly had one of her underage friends, who I believe was also a backup dancer, bent over in the studio like a chair or desk, smashing her. And she was underage. So you can't say that this stuff is not happening. And then on top of that, you have Lisette, who comes up and she pretty much tells you her story and what she went through. And one of the main things, because again, guys, I have notes, so I'm like using my notes to get the main points, because this was a lot. So I'm using my notes to get the main points that I want to get out. But there was a point where Lisette pretty much comes out saying that she caught mono from R. Kelly. Now, I believe when Lisette started dating him, when she came around, I believe she was either 14 or 17. I can't remember her exact age. I apologize. But she caught mono from him. But what happened is the mono turned into a serious condition to where she was in the hospital and could have very well lost her life. She was in a coma for a little bit. And R. Kelly only saw fit to send her mom a $1,000 check for everything that she had to endure, which I think is ridiculous. Like, how do you even think that $1,000 is enough to even scratch the surface of the medical cause that they would have experienced based off the severity of what Lisette was dealing with and what she went through? But okay, obviously it shows you right there he doesn't really care and he's more about self. You get what I'm saying? But what I also think is so funny is, like, all the girls come out where they say, and if you literally think about it, all the girls come out saying that it starts off as them having to call him daddy during sex, turning into them calling him daddy all the time. That is what he had to call him. And then, of course, you get into where they're talking about the recordings and everything. And like, there's even a situation where there was a Lisa Van Allen, I believe is her name. And she was a part of a threesome that was being recorded. And she started crying, and R. Kelly got angry with her and got mad at her, like pretty much like going off on her, talking about, what are you crying for? Now I can't use this footage, you done messed it up or whatever, like berating her about her being crying when she is sitting here uncomfortable, because she is sitting here doing things that she's uncomfortable with. Granted, she should have been able to just say no, and I don't want to do this, but you know, the mind when manipulated will use anything to rationalize and explain the things that they're doing. But what ended up actually coming out was the girl that was in the video, she was told that she was 16 years old, which in my head personally, Lisa, I know you're a victim, but even if that girl was 16 years old, hell, you're 17 years old. This man is like in his late 20s, 30s. Like, why? Why would that even be acceptable? Why would that even be okay? And then let's be real. Like, if you're 16, like, how many, and you're sitting here participating in threesomes and you don't think that, okay, you know what? I'm not going to go on a rambling rant because I'm known to do that. But, it came out she was, actually 14, the girl in that video, and she is a lady who is affiliated with R. Kelly by the name of Sparkle. It was her niece, and it turns into this whole big ordeal, and that's when you get into pretty much the infamous peeing video. that was circulating around. It had to do with this little girl. Okay. So now that we've pretty much unpacked the main points of what was going on in episodes 1 and 2 of this documentary, it's triggering. It's very triggering. The reason I sit there and say it's very triggering is as somebody who has been molested as a young girl, and somebody who's even been manipulated. And because I'm pretty sure if you guys watched my shop talk or you guys heard me discussing this when we were briefly on this subject, me being 15 years old dating a 23-year-old, and me knowing the manipulation, the games that they play, and the things that they try to do as far as like separate you from your family, and nobody but me loves you and cares about you, which is a lot of the things that these girls were saying that R. Kelly was doing. It was triggering because I understood it, because I went through it. Like, this stuff really happens. This stuff is real. Like, that's why parents need to talk to their daughters. But what I'm going to sit here and say is, especially your black daughters, because let's be real, like, a lot of these girls are very developed and stacked at a very young age. And most men start looking at them, but of course that's why you have these laws into place, because while they might be body-wise stacked and built like a grown woman, their mind is at the capacity of a 13, 14, 15-year-old. They're not fully developed. They are still growing, and they're still coming into themselves. And the fact that R. Kelly messed up a lot of these girls' lives at such a young age, because like I told you, guys, check out my Sex Me Confessions of Daddy's Little Free. That girl was 16 and a virgin when she first met R. Kelly and started doing things with him, and he didn't even tell her that he had herpes, and he gave her herpes. And if you really think about it, he's messed her up for the rest of her life, because not saying that she can't move on and can't have kids and can't get married, because she can, and she most likely has. I'm not sure. I don't know. But you make it a lot harder when you throw in an incurable disease like herpes. You make it very hard. And like, literally, this girl was 16 years old, and even if you watch the video, finds out, I believe at like 17 or 18, that this is what he gave her, and he knew all along. And I feel like he purposely give these girls these diseases so that they can feel like, oh well, it's going to be hard for me to go out here and find anybody who's going to want me now. Like I said, playing on their insecurities even more to keep them around. A lot of these girls, after some years was like, nope, you know what? I've had it. I'm done. I'm through. I'm not dealing with this. And they left. But not all of them have. And it's just a very, very sad situation. But I am going to go ahead and I'm going to end this video here. Again, because it's so much to unpack. I tried to do it before it messed up, but like, I recorded and it was like an hour long, and it still had more stuff to talk about. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna shorten these down, because I can't do that. I'm sorry. No. But I'm gonna go ahead and end this video right here. This is for part 1 and 2 of the first documentary that was actually dropped. So guys, I want to know your opinions on this. How do you guys feel? How do you guys look at this particular situation? I know there's a lot of people that are still coming out saying that they are still going to go to his concerts and buy his music and things of that nature, which you're entitled to do that. You don't have to sit here and just stop supporting him because of all of this. No, you don't. But at the end of the day, I sit here and I say, I'm like, just like there was a topic where I had seen a meme, and I'll try to add it if I can find it again, where it was pretty much saying the people who say that Trump supporters are idiots, but yet they still listen to R. Kelly's music. Like, that's true. Like, you can't sit here and call Trump supporters dumb, but then turn around and you're supporting and celebrating a man who like pretty much public knowledge is he preys on young innocent girls who are like your daughters, your nieces, your cousins, your like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that could have very well been somebody within your family going through that and having that experience. And would you still feel the same way if that was something that was within your home front and your family? But again, I'm not criticizing anybody who wants to listen to his music. You can listen to, I haven't listened to it in a while, unless it pops up on the radio. I don't listen to his music. I'm not supposed to purchase concert tickets. No, I'm not doing it. Like, that's ridiculous. But you got, even with all of this that's coming out, you still got women who want to be with R. Kelly. And it just, what also throws me is that R. Kelly is such a huge worldwide name and has been in this game for decades. Why, and women throw themselves at you. Why couldn't you get a woman who was of legal age to consent that isn't in high school? That's just my opinion. But all right, guys, like I said, we're going to go ahead and end this video. Go ahead and comment down below. Let me know how you guys feel. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. It don't hurt nothing. It don't hurt nothing. So, guys, thank you for tuning in if you stuck through this long. And until the next video, bye. Alright, Rosebuds, that's it. I'm your favorite Rosebud, Nisa K. I do want to thank you so much for tuning in, and like, share, and subscribe, and follow your girl on her social media sites. It don't hurt nothing. All social media is GossipBud87. Alright, guys, bye.